is the In-Flight News, presented for Qantas by the 9 Television Network of Australia.
Hello and welcome to the Morning News. I'm Julie Snook. Ahead in this bulletin, hundreds of thousands feared dead from Typhoon Haiyan as the full devastation of the deadly superstorm is slowly being realised. The parents of King Hit victim Thomas Kelly speak out following the sentencing of their son's killer. And one paw at a time, the panda cub's learning a very important lesson. First in news today, though, it's being called one of the worst natural disasters in recent years. Super Typhoon Haiyan has ripped through the Philippines, claiming at least 10,000 lives and leaving hundreds of thousands more homeless. Next in the storm's path, Vietnam, where more than 900,000 people are bracing for the worst.
Only now is the true horror becoming clear to the outside world. But these people have lived the nightmare for 3 days now. Dealing with the aftermath must be as tough as surviving the storm itself. More pictures of Friday's typhoon are now emerging. In places, the winds reached almost 200 miles an hour. That makes it one of the most powerful storms ever recorded on land. It flattened flimsy homes as well as sturdier buildings. Many people would have been killed by collapsing walls or flying debris. Even evacuation centres are reported to have been severely damaged. But the wind also created a storm surge, with powerful waves sweeping across the islands. A huge number of victims drowned. When the water receded, it left behind evidence of its force. The province of Leyte and its capital Tacloban appears to have been the worst hit.
We have an estimate given on the casualties, more or less 10,000.
What to do with the dead is one problem, but how to help the living is more urgent. No food, no power, no shelter. Several million people desperately in need of help.
I can't think. I don't know what to do. Right now, all we can do is survive the day.
The province of Leyte and its capital Tacloban appears to have been worst hit. It's thought thousands died here. President Aquino was flown in to see the scale of the destruction and promised his government would do everything possible.
But we are addressing first the needs of those who are still living, especially those who are injured, the need for food and the need for water.
Aid agencies are comparing the levels of destruction to the Boxing Day tsunami a decade ago. But at least the typhoon arrived with plenty of advance warning. Hundreds of thousands of people had taken refuge. Tourists will have an escape route out of the chaos eventually, but it's not easy.
It's almost the end of the world, but our goal is I must go out of this city.
With communications down, people queued to be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes on the internet so they could get in touch with friends and relatives. With so much infrastructure destroyed on this island nation, it's impossible to know how badly more remote areas have been hit. It could be many days before the full scale of this tragedy is revealed.
Still on the typhoon, and an Australian who was a former Catholic priest is among those who have lost their lives. 50-year-old Kevin Lee had recently moved to the Philippines with his wife and 7-week-old daughter. Mr. Lee had been a whistleblower about child sex abuse within the Catholic Church. Anyone concerned about family or friends is advised to call the DFAT consular hotline on 1300 555 135. Meantime, the Pope has led tens of thousands of people in a prayer service at the Vatican for the victims of Typhoon Haiyan. Addressing the crowd, the pontiff said he wanted to assure the people of the Philippines that he feels close to them and prayed international aid reach those affected quickly. In other news today, Queensland residents are facing a huge clean-up after storms ripped through the Logan area south of Brisbane. A number of storms merged to produce winds that ripped off roofs. The suburb of Greenbank was the worst hit as 49 mils of rain inundated the suburb. There were huge hailstones, but most of the damage was caused by the gale force winds. Conflicts both past and present. At a ceremony in Whitehall, the Queen laid a wreath at the cenotaph. Other members of the royal family then followed, including the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Harry representing Prince Charles and the Duke of Cambridge. A deal to reach a nuclear agreement with Iran has failed. It came following 3 days of negotiations in Switzerland, talks involving the US, Britain, France, Germany, China, Russia and Iran. Residents in Tehran were hopeful a deal could be struck on the country's stockpile, but despite the failure, the EU says progress was made. Talks will resume later on this month.
A not so long time ago in a country far, far away.
You know, you've always got a dream. You don't grow up wanting to be a Jedi.
Bristol, England, where the locals are more used to carrying umbrellas than lightsabers. They queued and waited for the shot in a million light years at a role in the latest Star Wars movie.
May the Force be with you.
Don't get cocky, kid.
Me's a Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Producers have two characters to cast, a young woman, Rachel, and a young man, Thomas. The chosen ones will, of course, be good-looking and athletic, handy for those fight scenes. Many of these hopefuls weren't even born when Mark Hamill read lines with Harrison Ford before landing the role of Luke Skywalker.
We've come this far. We must find them.
Perhaps one of these unknowns will soon join them on screen when production on Episode 7 begins. Danielle Post, 9 News.
I have a very special young lady here. Tell everybody your name, beautiful.
A dream come true for one of Beyonce's biggest fans.
Sophie, I think I need you to help me sing this song. You think you can sing to the left?
Sophie Kotkis got the surprise of her life on Friday night when she was asked to share a song with her favourite singer in front of more than 14,000 people.
Say, to the left, to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, sing.
The 13-year-old is legally blind and also suffers from hearing, muscle and developmental problems. This is the first time Sophie's been to a concert.
She ran up to me and gave me a kiss on the head.
The 7-month secret operation was organised by Sophie's sister, 17-year-old Ellie. She sent a video to Beyonce about Sophie's love of music.
Typhoon terror, fears for Australians amid warnings 10,000 people may have died in one of the worst storms in history.
Justice for the victims of thoughtless violence. What can be done to stop tragedies like the death of Thomas Kelly?
Lest we forget, Australians pause to honour all those who made the ultimate sacrifice as we mark Remembrance Day.
Giving children a home. Deborah Lee Finesse tells us about her fight to help families who adopt.
Up hits back. Michael Clark joins us live to tell us what he thinks of his critics.
You cower in the corner, confide in your father, and let it out and say.
Australia's Got Talent winners Uncle Jed alive in the studio.
How good are they? And we've got 2 cars in the double car and cash giveaway. One of them has 50 grand in it.
Good morning to you at home. We begin with the emergency gripping the Philippines in what is being described as one of the worst natural disasters ever recorded. More than 10,000 people are feared dead in one town alone after Typhoon Haiyan ravaged the country's central islands.
While it's passed on, it's only now we can see the fresh and open wounds left behind. At least 4.5 million people have been affected by the typhoon, which obliterated nearly everything in its path. And heartbreaking stories too being told of children torn from the arms of parents, whole families climbing higher and higher on the roofs of their homes, but the water kept rising, eventually sweeping them all away. It's resulted in this humanitarian disaster which the people in the region can't possibly cope with. This man said, "We just made mass graves for 57 people who died, and that number will surely rise because we haven't been able to talk to other people in the other villages along the coastline because the roads have all gone." It'll go down as one of the strongest storms ever to make landfall, and it seems reminiscent of the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami. And those winds created a storm surge so powerful the waves pushed their way inland for kilometres, destroying towns and villages far back from the coastline. When the water receded, it left behind evidence of its force. The province of Leyte and its capital, Tacloban, appears to have been the worst hit.
We have an estimate given on the casualties, more or less 10,000.
There's no food, no power, no shelter. Several million people are desperately in need of help.
I can't think. I don't know what to do. Right now, all we can do is survive the day.
And the President has flown in to see the scale of the destruction.
But we are addressing first the needs of those who are still living, especially those who are injured, the need for food and the need for water.
So many now are still living in the middle of floodwaters. Roads everywhere are choked with debris, making the task of trying to organise rescue and relief operations a near impossibility. Devastating the Philippines, the typhoon now has lost much of its power, and across the water in Vietnam, that country is being hit with massive storms, but nowhere near the intensity of the last few days. Robert Penfold, 9 News.
The family of a Melbourne woman missing in the Philippines say they're fearing the worst. 28-year-old Michelle Riemann managed to send a text message to her family in the hours leading up to Typhoon Haiyan, but hasn't made contact since the disaster. Former Sydney priest Kevin Lee has been confirmed as the first Australian among the dead. The 50-year-old recently moved to the Philippines with his wife and 7-week-old daughter. Mr. Lee had been a whistleblower about child sex abuse within the Catholic Church. Well, it is the day we remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Remembrance Day will be marked across the country today to honour those who've lost their lives at war. Let's go live to Nine's Kerry Yaxley, who's at the War Memorial in Canberra for us this morning. Kerry, good morning. This year is particularly special.
Yeah, that's right, Sylvia. Not only does this year mark the 95th anniversary since the end of World War I, it also marks 20 years since the unknown soldier was laid to rest here at the Australian War Memorial, and 20 years since the then Prime Minister Paul Keating delivered his eulogy for the unknown soldier. It was a significant speech. It was a powerful speech, and to commemorate that occasion, Mr Keating has been invited back to Canberra to give the official commemorative Remembrance Day speech a little later this morning. And also some powerful words from his speech have been added to the unknown soldier's tomb. He's all of them, he's one of us, and that's expected to be unveiled a little later today, Sylvia.
Let's go to the main centres and kick off the week. Here is today weather for Monday morning, and we'll see partly cloudy conditions in Cairns, 31, Townsville 31 and sunshine today. A few storms and showers for Brisbane, 28, the Gold Coast 26. Rain at times in Sydney, becoming windy, and 19, and some rain for Canberra, just 12 degrees today. Real change in the weather this week. Melbourne, showers developing in 20, partly cloudy in Hobart, 15 degrees, and then sunshine for Adelaide, 22, Perth 31, Alice Springs 29, and Darwin, showers and storms 33. On the forecast rainfall map, we have got a very broad trough triggering showers and storms from the Kimberley right through the country into the southeast of New South Wales. These falls will be potentially severe in New South Wales and Queensland. We've got a high directing cool winds and light showers across coastal areas of Victoria, Tasmania and South Australia. I'm waking up in Sydney Harbour this morning where the rain is coming down quite heavily already. In fact, Sydney could see more than 100 mils of rain this week, and that's more than it's picked up in the past 4 months.